Now our Verified team is looking into claims about fires after several U.S. food processing plants went up in flames in recent months.
WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg looks into what we know about the circumstances tonight.
Recent fires at food processing plants across the U.S. have several people speculating online if something else is behind them. This tweet notes a, quote, odd coincidence that, quote, 18 U.S. food processing facilities burned down in the last 6 months. The question that we're looking at today, are people setting food processing plants on fire intentionally in order to create a food shortage? Let's verify. Our sources, Sam Gage-Jack, the communications manager for the American Association of Meat Processors, Sarah Little, the vice president of communications for the North American Meat Institute, Tom Super, the senior vice president of communications for the National Chicken Council, fire officials in each case, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, otherwise known as the USDA. In a statement, Little told us, quote, we are not aware of any concerted effort to set food processing facilities on fire. Super told us, quote, I can only speak for chicken, but like any manufacturing plant industry, there are genuinely a few fires that occur each year across the country. Most of them are contained rather quickly. Gage-Jack agrees.
We've not seen anything that points to it being suspicious in any way. A lot of them seem to be mechanical failures or just very unfortunate, tragic things that happened, but nothing that was deliberate.
So let's break down the number on what we learned from fire officials. 11 of the fires were either ruled accidental or no foul play was suspected. 6 others are still under investigation. The other one was at a vacant building that once housed a meat plant, but no longer does. Another note, while the tweet mentions 18 fires in 6 months, only 12 of them actually happened in that time frame.
I talk about people who can explain. And not just explain, but people who can see all this stuff going on, almost in sync with one another, and they'll try to explain things in a way that tries to make sense. Make sense like in natural causes.
French President Emmanuel Macron's government invoked a special provision of France's constitution on Thursday to bypass Parliament in a bid to push through its controversial pension reform.
On ne peut pas faire de paris sur l'avenir de nos retraites. Cette réforme est nécessaire.
The move received a frosty reception in Parliament, with lawmakers singing the national anthem.
Protesters in Paris are showing no signs of backing down in their fight against French pension reforms. Frustration turned to fire and fury after Emmanuel Macron's government narrowly survived no confidence motions on Monday. The votes only adding to public anger, with strikes and demonstrations flaring up across the country.
It's not really just about pensions, it's about being fed up with everything. They want us to work longer while they are already reducing our salaries. They don't increase our wages, they increase all our charges, electricity, even food. And in the end, why? To work longer for nothing, for a pittance, and to have a pension that I might not even get?
Members of the unions and of the opposition parties here don't seem very happy about what he said. They said he came across as arrogant, he was showing disdain.
In a television interview, Macron said he had no regrets about pushing through the bill without a vote, but added he hopes to improve relations with labour unions and involve them in any future reforms.
As I speak to you right now, do you think I enjoy doing this reform? No. Do you think I could have done the same as many others before me and sweep this under the carpet? Yes. Maybe. But there is one thing I regret. It's that we weren't able to inform of the need to undergo this reform.
Like that right now going on in Paris over retirement and pensions. At the same time, retirement and pensions are a controversy here in the United States right now. And I'm listening to people explain it. Probably some of the same kind of people that Lionel been listening to. Listen to Lionel explaining to people who can explain what's going on with the banks.
Specifically, what you need to know, because nobody is filling you in with what you need to know. Look at what's going on regarding this financial horror that we're going through. Has anybody ever told you anything even remotely revelatory about this? No. They keep speaking Wall Street speak. And each one tries to be more vague than the other. Well, you understand this is an infusion of equity. And the problem with equity is it has to go to the dollars, and the other inflation, and then consequently, to remove the inflation, you have to realize that there's a recommendation of that, which is for that having been never there. What are you talking about?
The rest of Lionel's video will be in the description box along with a few other things. But Lionel explained what I've been meaning about people that can explain it. Like the people who could explain why 10,000 cows in Kansas would just drop dead overnight. They kept speaking farmer speak, like Lionel was talking about Wall Street speak. 10,000 cows don't just die overnight, but they'll still try to explain it.
Hey.
What?
Hey.
What? Hey. You want your hard face, ugly long lips, capital.
Like everybody is stupid. Nearly 100 food processing plants don't just catch fire one after another so fast like that. I think, what was it? Over a 2.5-year period? But people can explain it, like in the first clip I showed you.
I just signed this veto.
In the first veto of his presidency, President Biden says he's taking on so-called MAGA Republicans. The veto effectively kills a GOP-led effort to discourage companies from supporting environmental or social causes, or what Republicans call
the latest woke left policy.
Earlier this month, Republicans like Senator Josh Hawley voted to end a Labor Department rule allowing retirement fund managers to consider things like climate change and social issues in their investment decisions.
I want them to be focused on protecting the funds, the money, the hard-earned cash of folks who have worked their whole life and paid into these pensions.
Republican Congressman Ralph Norman says the practice hurts Americans' bottom line.
If you look at the stocks, it hasn't done well.
But in his veto message, President Biden says there's clear evidence proving that theory wrong. He says doing away with the rule defies common sense.
Would put at risk the retirement savings of individuals across the country.
Okay, scumbag is lying. The retirement talk is the bureaucracy, the red tape, like the Voting Rights Act. It was disguised as protecting people's right to vote or giving people the right to vote. But the devil in the details was it was really a bill that sought to get rid of the filibuster so that the DNC could pass damn near anything that they wanted to get passed into law. Why are the banks talking ESG? Environmental Social Governance. And pay attention to where I'm going to stop it in this next clip. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to play it twice.
On Monday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced proposals aimed at taking down environmental social governance, also known as ESG, in the Sunshine State, further cementing his anti-elites crusade. While speaking at an event last night, the Yale undergraduate Harvard Law graduate said, quote, "We will be standing up for folks in Daytona and Destin, not following the elites in Davos."
DeSantis wants to ban ESG banking, which basically implements a requirement that says investors need to consider the 3 pillars of ESG when choosing whether they want to invest in a community or project. The Florida governor has consistently fought this idea because he and critics alike say it is chock full of woke political ideology. DeSantis' latest criticisms of elites comes weeks after policymakers and CEOs from around the globe met in Davos, Switzerland to discuss geopolitical risks like inflation, food insecurities, climate crises, and of course disinformation and how best to fight it. And ESG is a very popular idea among kind of the Davos elite. This idea that investing and business needs to follow these principles of environmental concern and equity and sustainability, and which I don't have a problem necessarily with that, but they really want to code it into law so that you're not allowed to do business unless you have a stated commitment to these things. Some of these will be fine commitments that businesses should make. There needs to be some regulations, I guess. But my worry, and the worry a lot of people who are skeptical of ESG would have, is that it's going to look like exactly what I talked about in my radar, the disinformation creep, where you're no longer allowed to do business if you have expressed any harmful, toxic political ideas. You're not going to be allowed to have a bank account if you're someone who said something uncomfortable on Twitter. You're not going to be able to do Airbnb or Uber. How the kind of social credit score idea is seeping very slowly and very gradually due to COVID, due to disinformation, the way that elites are choosing to weaponize these policies against ordinary people. Or, if you're someone who said something uncomfortable on Twitter, you're not going to be able to do Airbnb or Uber. How the kind of social credit score idea is seeping very slowly and very gradually due to COVID, due to disinformation, the way that elites are choosing to weaponize these policies against ordinary people.
Social credit score and the digital currency. Imagine going to the grocery store one day and you get to the register with your stuff and the cashier tells you, sorry, but you've already purchased enough milk for this month. And you'll already know not to contest it or protest it because your social credit score will get lowered if you do, and you already know that. So you'll keep quiet. And this is what the ESG thing is really about. Because what are the banks doing talking about social governance for?
It won't! Oh, it won't empty! There'll not be any plates washed to eat of. The very night I've got to be early at the youth centre. I'm trying to learn my lessons. In the old days before the glorious revolution, London was not the beautiful city we know today. It was a dark, dirty, miserable place where scarcely anybody had enough to eat. Children had to work 12 hours a day for cruel masters who flogged them with whips. I know what's happened. Somebody's done something to this. They must have all sneaked in when we've all been away. Filthy traitors! You mean blocked it up on purpose? Yes. Who? I'll find out. And when I do... Where have you been? Leaving me here? Do you want me to go to the youth centre without any supper and tell them that you don't feed me, eh?
Oh, no, dear.
After all I've done this afternoon.
Oh, yes, dear. She's such a brave, clever girl. A real child hero, as they say. She actually managed to...
Don't tell him about it! Don't you dare!
No, dear.
The daughter yells, I'll tell them you don't feed me. That was from George Orwell's movie 1984. The ones of you with small children and kids. What this ESG social credit score and digital currency will do is make the parent into a guardian or custodian. And not like the parent is now. We already know that the parents are the guardian and custodian. Not like that. But guardian or custodian like you'll just be somebody that just so happens to be in the house with them. The kids will know that they won't need you to buy their food and clothes for them, and your house or apartment won't be yours either. They'll know that all they have to do is be in accordance with the state, and the state will put their supplies on their cards.
Don't you laugh at me! They didn't laugh at me this afternoon! They didn't!
What happened this afternoon?
I won a medal!
Hello. Ah, Smith. What's this? Who won a medal?
I did.
What?
Oh, Tom, she was out with her troop of spies on a country hike.
Oh, let's sit down and hear all about
And
it.
she got 2 other girls to go with her, and they slipped off from the hike.
Why did they do that?
We were following this strange man I saw. I was sure he was some sort of enemy agent. A parachuter, perhaps. He was a foreigner.
Well, how do you know?
Well, he was wearing a funny kind of shoes. I never saw anybody with shoes like that before.
Oh, pretty smart, huh? How's that for a sharp eye? Go on, you trailed him.
For 2 whole hours. And when we got to Barnet, we told the patrols.
And then?
They arrested him, of course. They took him away to the Ministry of Love.
The Ministry of Love. Oh, it'll be in for there, all right. Yes, on her word. Oh, that's a clever girl. That deserves the medal if anything does. Yes. Oh, and you'll be on all the telescreens tomorrow. Oh, and they'll want you down to the youth centre, won't they?
Oh, yes, I've got to go. I've got to. And she hasn't given me my supper!
What's
Is this bother with the sink,
You've
Mr.
got to
Smith?
use it now, Mrs. Parsons. You get us something to eat straight away. My. We've got something to be proud of now. Victory Mansion's own child hero. Oh, and I've got a lot of leaflets here about Hate Week. Hand out the community centre tonight. Oh, you should have been there, Winston, old man.
Let Let me see. I want to see.
Of course, but I must talk to Mr. Smith first.
Well, I'd better be going. Oh, good night.
Come with you, old man. I'm organising squads of men to hang our bunting 400 metres.
Where's my supper?
A moment, dear.
And I want mine. Someday I'm going to be a child hero. You've got to make us strong. We're the glorious generation. We're going to track down all the thought criminals and traitors. We'll shoot them. We'll vaporize them. Whoever they are.
Hate speech and thought crimes. This next clip I'm going to play for you. He's going to say bad character. No crime committed, no. Just bad character. Then the enormous influence dude is going to come on.
Opposition leader Peter Dutton is calling on the immigration minister to block Kanye West from coming to Australia. The controversial rapper is planning to visit his new in-laws in Melbourne next week after marrying Australian architect Bianca Censori. But there are calls to have him blocked after Kanye's repeated discriminatory comments about Jewish people and praise of Hitler.
Are disgraceful. His conduct and his behaviour is appalling, and he's not a person of good character. And the minister has the ability to stop somebody coming into our country of bad character. So the minister's got a lot to weigh up. But I must say, my instinct would be, if I was that decision maker, I'd think there are better people that we could welcome in.
Joining me live now is Peter Wertheim. He's co-CEO of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. Peter, thanks for your time. You've written to the Immigration Minister yourself and on behalf of the Council. What's the message?
Well, the message is that this is an individual who carries a lot of influence, who over the last few months has made hateful and threatening comments in a very high-profile way against Jewish people and also against others as well. A few months ago, he was excluded from a couple of social media platforms for threatening to go, in his words, DEFCON 3 against Jewish people. And as recently as 7 weeks ago, he went on a TV program and did an interview in the United States expressing admiration for Adolf Hitler, describing himself as a Nazi. Now, bear in mind, Kanye West is of African American background. He would have been regarded by the Nazis as racially inferior. But you can't dismiss these sorts of comments as just the rantings of a clown. These are very serious because of the enormous influence that he has.
The comment I put on that video a month ago was, I said, the big lie that's being told is that this is about Kanye's words, when really this is about controlling everyone, regardless of the situation, and even if no situation exists. Okay? But this commentary was just me citing a few of the dangers of social credit scoring and digital currencies, and to make clear one of the many names that it has, like ESG.
Hi there, how you doing?
I am wonderful.
I am so sorry. That flight is canceled.
No.
Customer incident at the other end.
What? So when is the next flight?
Yeah, they're all kind of full.
I booked this weeks ago. It's my best friend's wedding.
I'm sorry.
I have to get there. I have to.
Okay, let's see what we can do.
Oh, thank you.
I see there's one standby seat on another plane leaving tonight.
Okay.
That's reserved for members of our Prime Flight program. You gotta be a 4.2 or over to qualify.
Oh, I'm a 4.2.
I'm afraid you're actually a 4.183.
Oh. Well, that's not my fault. Some woman dinged me down in the couch. Can't you just...
I'm sorry, it won't let me book it without the correct ranking.
But it's so close.
There's just nothing I can do.
Christ, I mean, surely.
I'm gonna have to ask you to moderate your language then.
Sorry, it's just... I'm maid of honor. I cannot miss this wedding.
And I am so sorry about that.
Can you call the supervisor?
I cannot do that.
Can you just call the supervisor?
I cannot do that.
Call the fucking supervisor.
Okay, that's profanity. We're zero tolerance on profanity.
I'm sorry, it's just...
Yeah, I have to serve the next customer.
No.
Step away, ma'am.
You've got to fucking help me! I'm so sorry.
I've called security.
Oh, no, please don't do that. I'm a 5-starring you. 5 stars.
What's the issue here, Hannah?
Intimidation and profanity.
Oh, no, I was not intimidating.
Don't speak, ma'am.
I was just trying to...